second productive you in webinar series, right? So please let me know if you can see my screen. We wouldn't want to take everyone's time here. We want to just go according to the schedule that we have and make sure we give you value for your time. So please let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen, everyone?
Yes, I can see.
All right, perfect. So as I said, my name is Bongshim Edward. I will be your host for today. Productive, just a brief introduction before we get into the order for the day. Productive You is a webinar series that we actually started sometime last year, but it was more of an internal event within the company, and now we've decided to this year to make it public and have lots of professionals in any field really, depending on the topic of the day, to come in and share their knowledge with us, so that we can also learn a lot of things together. Those that attended the previous session, and also coming in for today's session may feel like, oh, all we talk about are technical topics and so on, because last month we had a technical topic, and it looks like this month we are also going to be having something a little bit technical. But don't worry, that's not the case. This is going to be very interesting. We are mostly focused on productivity, right? So we're going to touch so many different topics, and obviously next month when we have another session, it might be something less technical, something a little bit different. But yeah, I hope we get to enjoy this series. So just to go through what we are going to be talking about today. So first of all, we've got the current session, which is sort of like the event overview, which we are doing now. This will be after me. This will be followed by our guest speaker, who is here with us. I will give an introduction later when we get to that. So he will be talking on the future of automation, security, and AI. Right. Our guest speaker is very, very experienced in this field. I'm going to give the introduction. You would be wowed to know who we have with us here today. And then after that, we are going to have our Q&A session. So at this point, please feel free. You'd ask any questions that you have. It doesn't matter. Don't think about how random the question is. Just ask it, and we'll be glad to answer. And right after the Q&A session, we are also going to have a product spotlight session. So this is when we have some of our partners that we've worked with in the past come in and introduce their products to us, letting us know more about the product, what they are doing in the market, how they are changing and solving problems out there. And then this will be followed by another Q&A session, an interactive session where we can ask any questions, get to learn more about that. After that, we'll have a short activity. It's going to be very simple, and then we can have some closing remarks and feedback. So I hope we are all pumped up and excited for today's session. Last time we had the session, we took quite a bit of time. So today we are really conscious about the time, and we want to make sure that this is weekend. Some of us want to sleep. We may be tired, from the week's activity. I understand that. See my eyes. I understand that. But yeah, what is most important is that we start this weekend being productive, because if we have a productive weekend, it could be productive rest, productive learning, anything. If you have a productive weekend, we are very sure that the following week that comes, it becomes easier for us to get into the week's activity and hit our goals for the week. So without further ado, I'm gonna be introducing our guest speaker for today. His name is Mr. Ibrahim Dauda. He has been working in the IT space since 2004. I don't know where I was in 2004. That's a very long time ago. But yeah, he has been working in the IT space since 2004. So you can imagine the amount of experience he has gathered. He has worked in finance, worked consulting, telecoms, aviation, gaming, so many industries I'm actually very, very much interested in personally. So you can imagine the wealth of knowledge that he's bringing to us today. And as I said before, he will be talking more about he'll be talking more about the future of automation and security, and AI. Obviously, we know how it is right now. AI right now is the buzzword. Most of us know of ChatGPT, Claude, and so many other AI products out there. So this would be a great opportunity for us to learn that, and even perhaps learn how to use these tools to our advantage and help us automate, so many things that we do. Perhaps later on, I would share a small story about how I sort of had to automate my way into resting at work. So perhaps I would share that after the session. So yeah, and very interestingly, as you can see, our guest has his camera on. You can see he's looking all good, looking all fresh and all that. He's not in Nigeria. He lives in the Netherlands, and we are so glad to have you here, Mr. Dawuda. Thank you for taking the time out to, come here and be here with us. So, the floor is yours. Thank you for coming here today. So, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and you can take over.
Okay, thank you. I will share my screen, so please let me know when you're able to see the screen.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, nice, thank you. Okay, thanks once again. Once again, welcome to today's webinar series. Unfortunately, I was not part of the first episode. I would have also loved to be there to learn from the community, learn from everyone, because you keep learning, right? No matter what knowledge you have, there's always new knowledge. And that's one of the things I like about someone like Bill Gates. He's always sharing the books that he has read, the new knowledge that he has acquired. And Bill Gates is already a grandpa, but he's still learning. So learning is always important for everyone, I would say. Okay, so today's topic is DevOps in 2025. What's the future of automation? What does the future look like for security and AI? My name is Ibrahim, but most people call me IB, so feel free to call me IB as well. Just a few disclaimers before we begin. We're already in the era of AI, so it's very easy now to do, research with AI. So for this session as well, we've been able to use AI to do a lot of work, so AI has actually helped with, getting some pictures, getting some content structure and stuff like that. So we've used AI for some parts of this presentation. However, no humans were harmed in the process of presentation, so only content, no humans. Yeah, so our agenda for today would be an interactive session. I would like for everyone to contribute as much as possible. Like I said earlier, it's knowledge is continuous. So no matter what information you have, if you share and other people share their knowledge as well, I think that's how the world goes around, where everyone is constantly learning. I would also like to share a side-by-side comparison of how we do DevOps security and other things with and without AI. So side-by-side, what it looks like with AI, what it looks like without AI. And then at the end of the session, I would like to share, like other people to share their experience and ask questions. And but feel free to jump in at any point if you already have some questions and you don't want to wait till the end, or you can put your questions in the comments, and then we can take them as well. Okay, so a little bit more about myself. I started learning and working in 2004 in IT, and since then I've pivoted a few times, working as a software engineer, working in aviation, working in gaming industry, in a couple of other industries as well. I've had a few roles over the years. I've been privileged to work as application support engineer. So I've been on the other side of software engineering as well. I've been in DevOps, helping software engineers still, and then working with architects, working with engineering leads and the business side as well. And then switching again a little bit more to the business side, to technical transformation, and at this stage also documentation basically founded a company, well, a few companies, and managing a few teams here and there. It's been to move around a little bit. When I'm not working, it looks like I'm still working, but I'm volunteering as a mentor, as a career coach, because I like to hear from other people, see how we can unblock each other. Because I also had mentors who really helped me in my career. So I think this circle should continue. So you learn, you pass on the knowledge, other people learn, they pass on the knowledge, and then the cycle continues like that. You can find me on LinkedIn, Medium, GitHub, and ADP list. So feel free to reach out through any of this social media. And now I would like to get to know the people in the audience as well. So I want to know what kind of work do you do? Have you worked in DevOps? Have you worked in software engineering? Have you worked in IT? You can put your comments in the chat. Where do you work? What do you do? What's been your experience? Let's take a few seconds to just go through that, get to know, so I can get to know you as well, because I've introduced myself. So I also want to know the people in the audience, so I know who I'm speaking with. I'll just take a few seconds. If you can put your comments in the chat. What do you do? Who is in the audience? I know a few people, obviously. Mr. K, we've worked together in the past. I see Mr. Shams as well. And Bongshim is he still here? Yeah, Bongshim, I've heard the name, but I'm not sure exactly. I think you mentioned you're in software engineering. But I'm curious who else is in the community. Do we have more of software engineers? Do we have more of DevOps engineers? What do we have? Do you already know Bongshim? Oh, yes, we have IT support, we have software engineer. Okay, we have backend developer, that's good. We have software engineer, that's nice, thank you. Anyone else? We have more software engineer, okay, thank you, you're welcome. Anything else? More backend engineer. Okay, nice. So more of engineering then. Good to know. And I guess Bongshim as well is. Are you an engineer or software? Yeah, Bongshim is a software engineer. Cool. Okay, so it's good to know that that's the people that I'm speaking with. So I'm guessing then maybe this topic would. Maybe we can focus it more about engineering, since most of the audience is in engineering. Okay, so I will share my screen again. Go back, share. Just this time. Okay, please confirm once again if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, cool. All right, so so now that we've gotten to know each other a little bit better, we can commence with just a little bit of background. Since now that I know that most of the audience is in software engineering, and then I'll maybe do a little bit more deep dive in DevOps. So the way because I was also a backend engineer, I was full stack engineer at some point. And my history with DevOps is such that on my team, I think that this was back in 2015 or thereabouts, we used to build applications, and we used to manually copy our applications and put them on a server, or we had some pipelines, but they were not really, proper pipelines. And around that time, DevOps started coming up with this. The idea of DevOps came up. We're like, what's DevOps? Who are these DevOps people? So I, did a little bit of research and switched basically the training, switched to DevOps, built a DevOps team. But then what we used to do mostly at the time is, a little bit of CI/CD, test our code, build the code, package it, put it on a server. Do a little bit of approvals, manual approvals before you put it on the server. Sometimes deployment is also, manual, not as automated as what you would have these days. So some DevOps processes, but a lot of manual processes as well. I think we used to also have some kind of login. We had some login, and then after we log, we look at the log manually. While reviewing the code, while reviewing the logs, all of these things are done manually. So that's basically the traditional process of DevOps. And this is what that process would typically look like. So if you can identify any of these tools, maybe things like when you're writing code, obviously everybody uses Git, some kind of Git repo. It could be GitHub, it could be something else. So virtually everybody uses that. And then after writing your code, you want to build, maybe you're building with Maven. If it's a Java application, you're building with whatever tools. For a .NET application, you're doing some kind of build. And maybe you're doing that build manually, or you're using a tool to automate your build. And after that, you want to do some testing. Maybe it could be JUnit, or it could be Selenium, it could be something else. And after that, you have your CI/CD pipelines. Could be in Jenkins, could be in Azure DevOps, and so on. By the way, I want to be conscious of time, so I can't remember how much time I have, so I don't take the whole time, because I know there's another session. Bongshim, can you help me as timekeeper in case? How much time do I have?
That's fine. I think you've got about an hour.
Okay, so ending at 11 thereabouts, yeah?
Yeah, 11:10.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Yeah, so I just want to be conscious of the time, so you can still have time for the other session. Yes, so as I was saying, so this is the traditional DevOps cycle, so you have Jenkins or some other Azure or some other DevOps tool. It could be AWS, it could be Azure DevOps, so there are quite a number of them. And then you do your deployments, could be using Docker images, could be, AWS, could be Azure. You deploy to some environments, and then you do some configuration. Could be with Ansible, it could be some configuration YAML and Kubernetes or Chef, and so on. And then you do some monitoring, you do some logging. It could be Splunk, could be AppDynamics, Datadog, and so on. So the process continues like that. This is traditional DevOps. But how can we improve this traditional DevOps using AI? Let's see. Now, using AI, these are some of the new features that AI adds to DevOps. So AI can transform your DevOps practices from being reactive, where you're doing things manually, to intelligent predictions, such that if you have a server, for instance, and the server goes down, AI can automatically do some self-healing automation there. You can do some continuous prediction, some continuous performance improvements using AI. So those are some of the things that we're going to look at today. Starting with automation, I think you have 12 sections, and feel free to jump in at any point. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can just unmute and ask the question so it can be interactive. So we'll start with automation. When you look at automation, if you want to automate traditional way, we probably use a DevOps pipeline, CI/CD pipeline. Here's an example of that. Azure DevOps CI/CD pipeline. Without AI, you have your stages, build, test, deploy, regular thing. You define the stage, what the stage does. Either you're doing npm, install, or whatever. So this is what that kind of setup can look like without AI. But if you're doing AI automation, then you have some self-healing features, such that when your server goes down, you have AI in place to automatically bring back that server. And here's a code sample that can already help you to detect some downtime, detect anomaly detection, and so on. An example is using GitHub Actions and AI monitoring. So basically what AI will do is to detect some build failures and suggest the fixes automatically, even before without any human interaction. Okay. Next section is with infrastructure. Previously I showed you if you wanted to do infrastructure, regular infrastructure with DevOps, You can maybe use Terraform, you can use Kubernetes, you're writing some YAML scripts or some Terraform configurations to set up your infrastructure. So that's, without AI. So you're doing some provisioning, you're doing some level of manual scaling or auto scaling still, depending on the kind of infra, obviously. Here's an example of that kind of scaling with AWS. So AWS can do some level of scaling for you, out of the box, or you can do this manually yourself. But with AI, you can actually take this a little bit further. You can integrate things like Lambda. Still on AWS, you can integrate Lambda and do some AI forecasting. Because when you think about your infra, it's not just infra. The infra has applications, the infra has a cost, the infra has a life cycle, the infra is in some regions. So AI can predict all of those things for you in terms of cost, in terms of predictive workloads, in terms of dynamic scaling. So there's an example of what that AI involvement can look like. So in terms of infrastructure, we can also use AI to improve how we manage our infrastructure. Since there's a lot of engineers here, so I think engineers would appreciate this one. You most likely test your code, you test your applications, whether you're building using test-driven development, I think is what it's called, or after you have built it using test automation. Is there anyone who does Selenium testing or JUnit or other kinds of testing? So most likely those kind of testing is what you do. But you can improve your testing. Instead of doing manual testing, you can improve your test. Even some testing can be done using DevOps pipelines already without AI, that's granted. But you can still go further by using AI to automatically detect edge cases. Is that a question?
No, I think the session has just been recorded.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so you can use AI to, automatically detect, changes, threat detection in your code, even without having any involvement. So normally what we used to do back in the day is we would write a pipeline to check our code against CVEs, like threats that have already been found. So, but then the thing is, if a new threat comes out, that new threat has not been to the CVE database, to the threat database. So the new threat is not being detected. Okay, so there's manual processes if you go the traditional way. But AI can automatically do that for you. So it's going to automatically detect edge cases that even you did not think about, and it can optimize your processes automatically without human intervention. Okay, so that's comparison between using AI and not using AI for testing. Another area is in monitoring and logging. Without AI, how do you do your monitoring? Applications that you build, since we have a lot of engineers here, how do you monitor your application? If you build an API and you deploy it on some web server or on some serverless infra, how do you know if your API is down? How do you know if there's an error in your API? How do you detect what's going on behind the scenes? Because, so especially for the backend, there's usually not a lot of visuals, right? Like unlike in the front end. In the front end, if something is down, you can see it. But in the backend, there are a lot of processes that you don't see that are sitting on some server somewhere. So how do you monitor them? So traditionally, you would want to, maybe even if you go a step further, you do some logging, right? You're writing logs into some log file somewhere, and then that log file goes into extinction. Nobody looks at it. Or maybe if you want to look at it, you use a command like tail, if it's on a Linux server, so that you can continue see. But you still have to look at that error. If there's an error, you still have to look at that log file manually, right? So that's the traditional way of monitoring and logging. There's an improved way whereby you can use AI to automatically go through your logs. So it's going through your infra, it's going through your logs. If anything happens, there's a configuration where you can say, okay, if an error with such name is detected, this is the response that you need to take. If there's a server that is down, this is the response that you need to take. Either you're expanding the server horizontally or vertically. Basically, a lot of options, configurations that you can use to improve your monitoring and logging using AI. Okay. Another area is in incident response. I don't know if a lot of engineers normally get involved here. Maybe not software engineers, but perhaps site reliability engineers. So when things go down, then you start receiving calls at 1 a.m., middle of the night, to come and investigate what happened. Okay, the server is down, the service is down. How do you bring it back up? You start looking at logs, and you go and write some code somewhere to bring it back up. Or you receive an alert, you get an email notification of something that, okay, a service has gone down or a client is facing an error or something. So that's traditional incident response without AI. Now, using AI, you can already predict, because the best case scenario, if your application is experiencing some challenges, is to fix those issues before the customer experiences it. Or even better, is to fix the issue before it even comes up, right? So this is what AI can do for you. It can predict the failures before it even happens. And after not only predicting, it can also help you with root cause analysis and can suggest fixes for you. As of today, there's a limit to what AI can do for you, and hopefully we'll go into a demo and you can see that. The limit is AI can suggest for you, but it cannot fix all of the codes, cannot write all of the code for you. Okay, so it can suggest fixes, it can predict, it can do root cause analysis, right? But there's a limit to how much code changes that it can do for you. So that's how you can use AI for your incident response. Another area is in security. I think the last webinar was on DevSecOps. So there was a lot of conversation about introducing security into your DevOps pipeline, into your DevOps cycle. So with things like shift left, with things like security scans, and so on. So you can scan your source code, you can scan look out for vulnerabilities, look out for code coverage. Those are very fantastic features that you can do already without AI. But you can take this further with AI. You can already use AI-powered scanning, that continuously detects vulnerabilities, like I mentioned earlier. So the difference would be without AI, you have to depend on manually selecting which CVEs, for instance, that you want to detect. With AI, you don't need to do that. AI is going to manage that for you. And then you get a report. You can even configure what kind of response you want the solution to do for you when anything happens. So that's in terms of security. In terms of optimization, AI can also fine-tune some applications for you. You can also do this manually without AI. For instance, with tools like JMeter, and I think tools like K6 is what it's called. You can already do some performance testing, to be able to find optimization points in your solution, either on the infra or from the code. Okay, you can also use tools like, I think App Dynamics can also detect optimization for you, and it can go as deep as into the lines of code that, it can find what lines of code take the most time, for instance. So those features are already available without AI, and that's fantastic. However, you can take it a little step further with things like workload balancing, whereby you can optimize the solution dynamically without any configuration. So you can do this to some extent without AI, or you can go further with AI integration. So we have a lot of engineers, and I think this is the best part for engineers. So this is like most likely the most common use case for AI today. Without AI, a lot of coding can be done. Obviously, a lot of experience. You use Stack Overflow to find new information, and then you write your code, you push it to a Git repository, you raise a pull request, and you ask for code review. That's the normal process, which is perfect. And if you want to do some code review yourself, you want to see the changes that you have made yourself, you can use commands like git diff to compare the code that you had before and the new code that you have added, so you can see the difference. If you have made any bugs, if you have introduced any bugs, you can already see it. That's perfect without AI. But obviously, I will be surprised if there are people on the call who have not heard of things like Copilot? Is there anyone who hasn't heard of Copilot? Please, let's discuss. If there's anyone who hasn't heard of Copilot, or if there's anyone who hasn't heard of ChatGPT, or if there's anyone who wasn't part of the conversation about DeepSeek and all the, challenges they're facing in the US and in the European Union. Okay, so these are common. This is one of the most common use cases of AI today. So what AI can do for you is to automatically generate code for you. You ask it a question using human language, just in English, for instance. Can you help me generate code to test a Java application, a Java API, and generate it for you? So a lot of improvements can already be made in code development. So GitHub Copilot is there. There is also Gemini Live, whereby it looks like your what do you call it? Your coding partner, right? So I think back in the day, I don't know if this is still being done, but back in the day, we sometimes code in pairs, right? I think it's called pair programming, where you have the 4I principle. Instead of working alone, you bring one more software engineer to join you. You guys write the code together, and you move faster. I don't know if this works for other people, but sometimes it works for a lot of engineers. When you do pair programming with 4I principle, you can move faster and get things done faster. So this is your pair programming. The Copilot is your pair programming partner, basically. So it's helping you write code. It's helping you check your code. It's helping you generate new code and optimize code. Obviously, there's still a lot of hallucination with what some Copilots and others will generate for you. But hallucination aside, you can still get a lot of benefits from solutions like this. So there are a lot of them already. Like there's Amazon for AWS developer, there's Google Gemini, and our demo today is going to be on Gemini. There's one for Copilot 365 from Microsoft. There's a lot of them. So depending on your background, what you're trying to achieve, there's a lot of tools that you can already use. I don't know if there's anyone on the call who uses Otter AI. That's a very typical one that I've been seeing. Like when you join a meeting, you see someone who is unfamiliar is also requesting to join the meeting. So basically what that one does is to do transcription for you, call summarization. So as you're speaking, it's already summarizing the conversation, and you don't even need to take minutes of the meeting anymore. So that's already making your life a little bit easier. So there's a lot of them. Beyond code development, you can also use AI to generate what's it called now? This is speech to video or something like this. So there's an AI-powered avatar that you can use to generate video. So if you're into course development, for instance, that's an example of implementation of AI for that. So there are a lot of use cases for code development. Moving on. You can also use AI in configuration management. In the traditional way, you probably use Terraform, you probably use Ansible, and so on to do your configuration management, which takes time, right? But then you can already use AI to fine-tune some of those configurations. And like I mentioned earlier, it can also generate configurations for you, and you can use it as a best practices repository, if you like. Also in compliance and governance, so this is the area for engineering managers and business leads. They're always interested in how can I do audits, who is doing what. For example, if you're working in a large organization, they want to regulate what you're doing with your infrastructure, with your machines, and so on. So, but these things are being done manually. So they do manual audits, they write configurations and spread it out, and they make sure that things are not, going haywire, but that's without AI. Now with AI, they can already enforce all of these policies, at an organizational level. You can test these things on a one-on-one personal computer, but then this is mostly for, organizations, and this can be enforced using AI as well. Moving on, deployment strategies. You can also use The current traditional strategies without AI, you can do things like blue-green deployments. You can use feature flags to do deployments. You can introduce manual approvals in your CI/CD pipeline. So your CI/CD pipeline, for instance, is doing code checkouts. It's doing code build. It's doing code testing, and then it's before doing deployment to ask for a manual approval. So this is traditional way of deployment. With AI, we can take this a step further and do our deployments based on certain risk analysis. You understand, based on your risk tolerance level, you can introduce AI to optimize your deployment strategies, and manage everything for you end to end. And then we can also use AI for predictive analysis. You can use AI to review historical data, and there's a lot of data. In fact, one of the things that has come up recently is data ops and AI ops, which is actually for data. So rather than churning through tons and tons of data, so with AI, you can actually go through trends. Rather than predicting trends manually, you can use AI to go through existing data and forecast predictions based on those data. So new departments are actually being formed or have already been formed to do this. They call themselves data ops and data engineers, AI ops engineers, and things like that. So you can use AI for predictive analytics. This is very common in financial services, where there's a lot of customer data that needs to be predicted. So you can look at customers' data for the last 10 years, for instance, and just ask the data using AI, ask the data, what is this customer likely to spend money on based on the last 10 years of the customer's data. So this is one of the common use cases of AI in financial services. And I'm guessing in other industries as well. Okay, knowledge management is another one. Without AI, you typically document your code. I mean, there's a lot of software engineers here. You document your code. You write documentation in line within your code, and hopefully you write documentation on wikis as well to explain, the process. You keep architectural decisions, outside of the documentation, outside of the code. So this is traditional, right? You're writing documentation. Hopefully all the engineers here are writing documentation. Are there engineers who don't write documentation? Hopefully everyone here writes documentation, because the point of documentation is posterity, right? So you're building an application, you're writing an API. You don't want, after you have left that team, or even you on that, while you're still on that team, sometime later, you want to look at your code. If there is no documentation, you probably won't remember the reason why you wrote that code. So obviously documentation is very important. But the way we traditionally do it, we spend time after writing code, we spend time writing documentation, or rather as we're writing the code or writing the documentation. That's time consuming. In the past, I would probably not have said it's time consuming, but because there's a better way now, I'm saying it's time consuming because there's already a better way. So you write your documentation, you update it, because if you write code and code changes or you refactor the code, it means you also need to refactor your documentation. But that's one of the ways that documentation becomes obsolete. You improve the code, but you don't improve your documentation. So then later on, you search through your documentation or you read the documentation. So this is time consuming. You can improve this using AI, such that even the code itself, you get more information about the code. You generate documentation for the code automatically using AI. This is already available today. I think it's free for most services. You can generate documentation for your code. You can generate best practices for your code. You can generate wikis for your repos. So there are a lot of use cases for knowledge management. Using AI. And this is, interestingly, one of the projects that I am also currently working on. So it's a common use case. My current project is using AI for RAG, knowledge management. So what I did was to develop a multi-tenant generative artificial intelligence application for a client in financial services, using in the banking and insurance sector. So The application uses OpenAI, that's Azure OpenAI, GPT-4o, I think. And it uses RAG, retrieval augmented generation, RAG, to discover, and to ingest, and then index the customer's data sources, regardless of where the data is. So, and then afterwards, the customer's users can search for information across multiple locations. The data could be on ServiceNow, the data could be on SharePoint, it could be on Salesforce, it could be on SQL Server databases, it could be on Azure storage. It doesn't matter the location. So you just need a chatbot to ask, okay, find me X, Y, and Z, and it brings it out regardless of the location. So this solution is now out of the box. It's provided out of the box by most cloud services providers. I know Azure has it out of the box. And I believe AWS also has this out of the box. You have a data source. You just ask your RAG application to ingest this data, provide me a chatbot. You ask the chatbot questions, and it gives you information from that data source. Very straightforward. But what we did for this client was to make it multi-tenant, so that all the departments of this company can bring their data, own their data, and manage governance as well. So they have control over who has access to the data, because they don't want to reveal all data to everyone. So they want to be able to control, if this is my data, only I should have access to it, or I can control who has access, who else has access to it. So that's also governance. I think we talked about governance earlier on. There are a lot of use cases of AI in knowledge management, such as search and retrieval, such as content generation, like what I mentioned earlier. There's also call summarization using AutoAI. Very simple. You can use AutoAI. If you go to the AutoAI website, you just register with your Google account. And anytime you join a Google Meets call, automatically it's going to summarize the entire call. I think that's also available in Teams. So there's call summarization, there's chatbot integration, virtual assistants. I mean, everybody probably has heard about Siri, so you can use it. That's an example, typical example. And more and more people are using AI as virtual assistants now. So if you haven't gotten one, you should probably consider getting an AI virtual assistant just for the conversation, just to see how it works. Okay, so there are a lot of use cases of AI in knowledge management. Yeah, let's see what. Yeah, okay, cool. So we have about 15 minutes left. So just take a brief demo. Each of the areas that I've talked about deserves its own demo, but for this session, I will just take one demo. And hopefully, I don't know, Bongshi, maybe we can discuss another session if I'm privileged to be invited, and have another session with more demos and so on. For today's demo, I want to show you how Gemini Live can help with code development. So you have some code, or you have no code at all, and you're just brainstorming. You want to generate some code, or you already have some code. You want to improve the code. So rather than waiting for a code review session, you can start that code review session yourself together with Gemini. So Gemini is a Google product, and it's available for free right now. And I've provided the URL to Gemini Live. And there's a code sample that I'm using that I've already downloaded on my local. So I'll use that code sample to do a quick demo. There'll be 2 demos. Hopefully the demo goes well. In the first demo, I want Gemini to help me find the bugs in my code. I'll give Gemini a very simple instruction like, hey, Gemini, can you find the bugs in this code? And then in the second demo, I want Gemini to help me introduce AI improvements in my code. So let's see how that goes. In the spirit of demos, we hope this one also goes well. To enable you here, because it's so this is a conversation between me and Gemini. Gemini is speaking to me like a coding partner, like a pair programming partner, right? So I'll stop sharing my screen from this computer, and then I'll join from another device so that you can see the interaction and you can hear as well, because if I don't do that, then you will not hear the sound. So I wanted to hear the sound, so I have to stop sharing and disconnect from this computer and join from another one. So please let me know if you can hear me when I do that. So I'll stop sharing.
I think you're muted. We can't hear you.
How about now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm trying to use the right device, but I think there's an echo. Okay, please confirm if you can still see the screen.
Yes, we can see.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see the screen through your camera.
Cool. Yes. Okay, so I'll show you Gemini. So, okay, cool. So if you can see the screen, this is Gemini. I put this link in that slide so you can also test it for yourself. So basically, Gemini is a Google AI Studio product. It has a lot of features. You can talk to it just like Siri. You can show it a video. You can share your screen with it. So if you have some code, you share your screen with Gemini and you ask it questions about the code, and then you tell it what you want it to do for you. So there are some options on the side here that you can use if you need. For instance, code execution, function calling. I'm going to turn on all of them. Function response, grounding with Google search. So I'm turning on all of them so that Gemini. So just as a disclaimer, AI is still in development, so you might not get exactly the result that you want, but you will get some result. So I'll go ahead and share my screen with Gemini. I'll just click on this button, share your screen. So there are three options. I can talk to it, I can show it a video, or I can share my screen. I'm going with the option of sharing my screen. I click on that, and then I select which screen I want it to see. I wanted to see a window of Visual Studio Code because I have some code already in Visual Studio Code. Before I do that, let me also show you there's a code sample. So this code sample is available. I've put the link in the slides as well, so you can look around. Just a random code sample that I got from Microsoft's GitHub page. So this code is Azure DevOps pipeline for CI/CD, for Docker CI/CD. So it's just a random code. You can use any code you want if you want to do a demo. Okay, and this is the code. I've already opened it in Visual Studio Code, and I've introduced some bugs, right? There's a bug here, and I labeled them bug 1, bug 2, bug 3. Hopefully you can see it's, it's a little bit small, but yeah. Anyway, so I'm just telling you what it is, so you can already see the demo on it. So there are 3 bugs. Hopefully Gemini can figure it out, but if not, you still hear the conversation. So I'm going to switch to Gemini and then share my screen with Gemini. I'm sharing a window, and I want to share the Visual Studio Code window. Okay, hey Gemini, can you help me improve this code? Can you guys hear Gemini?
No, we can't hear.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, now.
Okay, cool.
Sì, posso sentirti anche con
We can't hear you anymore.
Azure pipelines. One, leverage build kit. The current code doesn't explicitly use build kit, which significantly speeds up Docker parallelization is absolutely setting it up.
Hello, did you hear that conversation?
Yes, a little bit. There was
quite
some
clear.
kind of feedback and echo, so it was difficult to make out what
Okay.
you said. Yeah.
I tried to reduce the volume so you can still hear, but unfortunately it's still echoing. Is it better?
Yeah, I can hear
The
you.
audio seems good. Is there
Okay.
anything else I can help you with?
Yeah. Gemini, can you find the bugs in this code?
Okay, I understand you're looking for a specific box within the provided YAML code. Based on the context of Azure Pipelines YAML, I believe you're referring to the full definition. Here's why and how to locate it. Full definition. In Azure Pipelines YAML.
Hey Gemini, what stages can I introduce in this code?
Yes, I'm here. What can I help you with?
I want to introduce a new stage in my code.
Okay, I understand. You want to add a new stage to your Azure DevOps pipeline YAML code. To help me provide the best guidance, can you tell me what you want this new stage to accomplish?
I want the stage to add AI improvements in this pipeline.
Okay, I see. You want to add a stage that incorporates AI improvements into your pipeline. This is an interesting concept. To provide the most helpful guidance, could you clarify what specific AI improvements you're envisioning? For example, are you thinking of one, automated code review with AI? This might involve using a tool that analyzes your code for potential bugs or machine learning.
Okay.
Powered testing.
There's still a little bit of feedback, but I think you get the point I'm trying to make now.
Okay, I understand.
I'm just going to stop AI Gemini. Yeah, thank you. Stop. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you were able to see a little bit of that demo. There was a little bit of feedback, but I've put the links. Let's go back. Yeah, I put the link to Gemini Live here. And I put the link to the code. This could be your own code, right? So you can use any code that you like. The point is to be able to use Gemini or tools like Gemini to be able to, to improve the work that you're doing. I'll share my screen again, this time the entire screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, cool. So what I tried to demo there, even though there was a little bit of feedback, is using Gemini, Google AI Studio's Gemini, with the live feature, whereby you share your screen, you show Visual Studio Code or any other editor, and then you ask for directions, you ask for guidance from Gemini, just the way you would do with any other coding partner, pair programming partner, and things like that. And this is not only for coding, right? This can be for any solution. It can be for design. It can be any conversations. It's just like you're having a conversation with a real person. Okay, so the use cases for this are not limited to only coding. I've put some code URLs here for your reference, so you can do some tests with actual code, with pipelines, because this was a DevOps conversation. That's why I put the DevOps code there, but there are other codes samples from Microsoft and from other locations, other sources as well. So feel free to check out those samples. Okay, in conclusion, the point I was trying to make today is that AI can, help with a lot of use cases. Okay, hold on. I think I accidentally stopped sharing. I'll share again. Okay. Yeah. So basically, in conclusion, the point of today's exercise is to use AI for as many use cases as possible. There are a lot of use cases, some of which I mentioned today, others which I didn't mention, like agentic AI. I don't know if you've heard conversations around agentic AI. So there's a lot of conversations going on how you can use AI to build entire solutions end to end, even though they are not yet perfect, but they are improving gradually by the day. So there are use cases like automation, security, and things like that you can use agentic to help you achieve as well. So basically, AI is not just AI is not trying to take anybody's job. Yes, there's that risk. People are afraid. Oh, will AI take my job? I think, in my own opinion, AI is going to improve the way we work rather than taking away our jobs. Right. So that's just one thing I want us to bear in mind. You can use AI for the job that you're already doing to help you become better at that particular job. So I hope to have encouraged you to find out more use cases of AI than what you have been doing in the past, and use AI to improve the work that you're already doing. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions. Any question? Yes, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Ibrahim Dauda. We are so glad to have had this session with you. Okay, so I guess we are going to take questions now. We've got one person's hand up. So this is how we're going to do it. Of course, we can raise our hands up and ask questions here, but feel free to use the chat box here to drop your questions as well, and then we can have the answers to them. So since we have one person's hand up, let's just go ahead and take Musa. Musa, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, good morning.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim, for the lecture. I learned a lot from it. So my question is, these days I'm trying to learn cloud engineering, but this DevOps now, I'm now looking like, should I leave cloud engineering and come to DevOps or something? Like, is there really a difference between them, or like, what's really, is there any distinct difference between cloud engineer and DevOps, or the two both of them are just brother and sister in another form or something? I would like if you can help me with the clarification. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you for your question. So cloud engineers and DevOps engineers have slightly different focus. And this is a topic of conversation on my team as well. We have people who are focusing on cloud engineering, and we have people who are focusing on DevOps engineering. I'll try to answer your question with a job description, because during our conversations, we also came up with job descriptions for each one. So basically, what a DevOps engineer would focus on will be more of automation, more of CI/CD pipelines, and things like that. Whereas the cloud engineer will focus more on the platform. A DevOps engineer will probably also need to have a lot of skills that a cloud engineer has, while a cloud engineer does not necessarily need to go deeper into the automation side of things. So to answer your question, should you leave cloud engineering and go for DevOps engineering? I don't think so. If your passion is in cloud, you can go ahead and do the cloud training and focus on cloud engineering. If after some time you've done cloud engineering and you feel like you still want to go for DevOps engineering, then that's fine. That would be additional skills that you acquire. Another way to look at that is, if you think about certifications, there is a certification for the cloud platform of your choice. For instance, if you prefer Azure, there's a certification for just Azure cloud, right? And then if you're going into DevOps, there's another certification for DevOps. So you can see that they are different. So the kinds of things that you'll be focusing on are also different. I'll look for the job descriptions that we came up with, and I'll share them. Or alternatively, you can also go to Roadmap. There's a website called roadmap.sh. And if you go to that website, you'll see the roadmaps for different tracks. You'll see a roadmap for cloud engineers. Let's say, I think there should be one for Azure maybe, and maybe AWS. Okay, AWS is there. I don't know if Azure is there. And then there's another roadmap for DevOps. So if you look at those roadmaps, you can already see the difference between the two of them. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I just did. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other question? Yes, please.
Okay. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
My question is, I'm a backend developer, but I'm looking for a way to upgrade my skills so I will have more to do on infrastructure when it comes to cloud. But I'm still on the opinion you want to choose. Just the same question is, the first engineer asked, the cloud engineer or the DevOps. But because at some time I will be needing something to do on to set up some infrastructure, but I don't know the role that will enable me to get more knowledge on that. Is it the DevOps or the cloud?
That's a very good question. And since another person has asked a question around the same topic, let me just share my screen and show you those roadmaps that I talked about. To set up infra as a backend engineer, you probably want to have knowledge about the platform, for instance, Azure, AWS, or others. That's one. Then the next stage for that is you might want to automate the setup. So the first step, you're setting up infra manually. Maybe you're creating a VM virtual machine on Azure DevOps manually by clicking buttons until you've created it. That's step one. Step two is to automate the way you click those buttons and created that VM. You automate it using tools like Terraform or some CI/CD pipeline, right? So that's another stage. The next stage for that is to secure it, either manually or using automation. The next stage for that is to monitor it, do logging. The next stage for that. So there are multiple stages, right? So you can look at this skill acquisition for that in stages. And that's why roadmaps such as this would be very helpful. I'll share DevOps roadmap. If you see here, the DevOps roadmap. Can you see my screen, by the way?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So if you look at this DevOps roadmap, it tells you what the skills that you should acquire as a DevOps engineer. You're learning a programming language. You're already a backend engineer, so maybe this is not applicable to you because you already know one of these languages. Then you want to go deeper into an operating system. You want to go deeper into the terminal, into the Linux shell script. You want to learn about Bash script. So you can go into, if someone can share, maybe I can also do that. Share this link on the chat. So this is for DevOps engineer, and then so you can pick the skills that you need from here and learn. And then for the cloud, let's see if I think there is a cloud engineer here somewhere. Search cloud. Let's see. Okay, maybe not cloud, but AWS. How about that? Yeah. So there's AWS. So this is for an AWS engineer, cloud engineer, right? So you can learn all of this.
You're not sharing your screen, Mr. Ibrahim.
Oh, really? Let me see. I'll stop.
I can see. We can see the screen.
I can see. Okay, maybe not everybody can see, so I'll just stop sharing and then share again so that everybody can see. I'll share the entire screen, so I don't need to keep going back and forth. Okay, please confirm if you can see it now. Is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. K,
Yes.
look, I hope it's fine now.
I guess
Okay.
it's my side, yeah. It came up and
Ah.
I still can't see it.
Okay, cool.
But it's cool. It's cool. If everybody can see it.
Okay, I'll share the link. So the link, you'll see the same thing that I'm seeing.
Yeah,
Or you can just.
because we are recording from here, so I wanted it captured.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Maybe I think it should be captured in the recording. Hopefully.
We're using a special kind of recording.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I put the link in the chat. So this is for DevOps, and the other one is AWS Cloud, right? So this is AWS Cloud. There's another one for Azure. I don't know. You can check. There are different kinds of cloud providers, so you can check one for Azure. Okay, the Azure one is not here. So So the point is there are different tracks, okay, and these roadmaps will show you what to focus on depending on your track. So you can just go through it and don't feel overwhelmed that you have to learn everything. You can just pick at your convenience. If the point would be for you to continue learning incrementally. So this month you learn one thing, you practice it, and then you teach someone. You pass the knowledge on. I think that helps you helps the knowledge to sink into you deeper. So you learn something, train someone, move on to the next thing, learn. So every month you learn something. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other question? I know we've run out of time, but
yeah. So we have about 4 minutes or so, so it's fine. We do have a question
Yes.
that was dropped in the chat box. Do you think anyone can dive into DevOps without having coding knowledge or experience?
That's an excellent question. I have, when I was working at Emirates in Dubai, I had colleagues who came from infrastructure background. I had other colleagues who came from security background. So the point I want to make is DevOps, the DevOps career itself doesn't require you to come from a coding background. You don't have to be an engineer, a software engineer, to be a DevOps engineer. Let me repeat that. You don't have to start as a software engineer for you to become a DevOps engineer. You can come from a different background, and I've seen it work with other people. People come from certified ethical hacking background, or cybersecurity background, or platform engineering, or database. So there are people who have worked in other roles, and then they transition into DevOps. There are people who have never worked in any role, and they come straight into DevOps. So that also works. So don't feel like, okay, you must learn coding before you become a DevOps engineer. However, most of DevOps activities revolve around software engineering, deploying applications and stuff like that. There are other things like platform engineering, platform management, data engineering, and all that. But a lot of things revolve around coding. So at the end of the day, when you're doing DevOps, you're doing things like CI/CD pipelines. You might get involved with some kind of code. So it helps you, to move along basically. But your area of focus, there's no guarantee that you must do coding. So it depends on which area you want to go to. You could go into data ops, for instance, and you have nothing to do with code. You're focusing on data. You could go into ML ops, for instance. That's a little bit of coding. But anyway. So I hope that answers your question, because your area determines what skills you need to acquire. So please take a look at these roadmaps that I shared, and that should give you more information. I hope that helps.
All right, thank you. I think we can take 2 more questions and then move on. So we've got one person whose hand's up. Let's take them first, and then we address the question in the comments. So, Mr. Ajibade, I think you can.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Thank you for the fantastic presentation, sir. I have a question regarding one of the projects that you mentioned. Yeah, you worked with, which was an RAG, and you said it was multi-tenant. So I was thinking about RAG one time, and I saw it was built on LangChain using Python actually. Are there other maybe framework, because the LangChain, the information about it wasn't so much. So I was going here and there, and I couldn't get full information about it. Is there other frameworks that are used, or can they be built just manually?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for that excellent question. So yes, my project had to do with RAG, retrieval augmented generation, and we did not use LangChain. We considered using LangChain. In the beginning of the project, we looked at all the options, we reviewed, and we had a very short timeline. So there was a couple of colleagues on the project, software engineers, data engineers, machine learning engineers, platform engineers, architects, and so on. So we had a session, we considered all the options. We had a very short timeline of 2 months to get it done. And things like LangChain, during our conversation, it was going to take a long time to get running with LangChain, and we decided not to use LangChain. So what we did was to use the out-of-the-box setup from Azure OpenAI and Azure AI Search. So that's what we used. To answer your question, there are a lot of options that you can use. You can go to, an example is Microsoft's AI website. They give you a lot of use cases. So you can go through those use cases and see which one best fits your solution. So you don't have to use LangChain. There are a lot of frameworks like LangChain, but you're not compelled to using them. You should first of all read about your use cases. And the reason why you should do that is because every day new features are coming out. You understand? The project that we worked on, this was June 2024. And at that time, when we were working on the project, June 2024, there was an architect, a team that was telling us that, guys, this thing that you guys want to build, Microsoft is going to release it soon. They have already announced it. And guess what? As of, I think, September or maybe November 2024, Microsoft released exactly the same feature that we built. They released it, so it's out of the box. So it was like we didn't need to build it. But the reason why we still went forward with it was because it was multi-tenant, like I said. Microsoft's solution is not exactly the same way in multi-tenant that what we needed. And our solution is also designed to meet the need of the client. It was deployed within the client's network. Microsoft's solution would have to go outside of the client network and come back. So that's how it manages data. The client doesn't want that. So the client moved forward with our solution because of the fact that it meets their security requirements, and also it has some features that the Microsoft solution didn't have. So my point is, try to find out what solutions are already available out of the box, and that should help you reduce the work that you have to do in terms of coding and in terms of how quickly you can get set up. I hope that helps a little bit.
Thank you very much. So let's take the last question. Sorry, I see hands are up, but we may not be able to take all questions now because we have to move on. So let's just take one last question, which is the one in the comments, and then yeah, let's see. So the question is, what is the difference between a solutions architect and DevOps engineer?
That's a fantastic question. They have some similar skills, and the reason I know this is because I've also been on both sides. Some of the similar skills are things like stakeholder management. As a DevOps engineer, you have to do stakeholder management. What do I mean by this? The DevOps engineer is a bridge builder. You're a bridge between software engineers, you're a bridge between platform, you're a bridge between business, that's customers, you're a bridge between testing, platform, you're a bridge between everybody. Because you have to take code from software engineers, package it, deploy it to the platform. Maybe there's another team managing, maybe there's an SRE team, or you could be an SRE yourself. But you don't necessarily have the overall helicopter view. This is the architect's responsibility. The similarity between architects and DevOps is because architects are also bridge builders. They are also stakeholders. They do stakeholder management, but typically more between business and technical, especially for solution architect. For business architects, they do building between implementation and business. So it depends on the kind of architect. And another point also is that there are different kinds of architects. Although you mentioned solution architect, so maybe specific to solutions only. So a solution architect, the similarities between the DevOps engineering and solution architecture are very close, but an architect has a higher level overview. And usually architects will probably not jump into code, except maybe for proof of concept. So an architect will probably help with the proof of concept, but probably not with the implementation. That's what the DevOps engineer will do. There are also DevOps architects, by the way. You know, architects who come from a DevOps background and switch into architecture, you know, and then there are solution architects, like what you mentioned, maybe they come from software engineering background and they switch into architecture. They have quite a lot of knowledge about the platform they are building, and they have the helicopter view, and that's how they became the architect, right? But the DevOps engineer is going to go down into the implementation, write code, and do all of that. I hope that helps. I think the roadmap can also show you more differences. If you look at the roadmap site, I haven't checked it for architecture, but I won't be surprised if it's, yeah, there you go. So you can see here more information about software architecture, and you can compare it with the DevOps engineering roadmap, and you can see the differences. I hope that helps. And I think that was the last question.
Yes, that's the last question. Thank you so much. We do have people are just asking lots of questions right now. We do have one of them here, but I guess I don't know how we're going to handle it. Seeing the person already.
Maybe we organize another session then.
Yeah, right. Right. I guess we'll probably have to do that. We can do some small Google search and get you a summarized response and drop it on the chat for you. I think that would be fine. So sorry we can't take all questions right now, but I'm so happy that at least asking questions shows that we actually assimilated a lot of information and we do have some kind of things to think of, right, which actually led to the questions. So thank you so much, Mr. Ibrahim. Your time has been really wonderful. We've learned quite a lot. I personally have kind of gotten my mind a little bit open to a lot of things. I'm glad you spoke about the rack system you worked on, because I'm currently working on something similar. I got stuck at some point. I had to cut corners because we we had a very short time. So you also explaining that and the flow you went through actually gives me more motivation to get the job done as soon as possible while we look at a lasting solution, at least to hit our deadline. So generally, thank you so much. We appreciate you for taking your time to be here with us today, and we hope to see you perhaps next time, for more interesting presentations.
Thank you so much for having me. And I just want to add that the next session doesn't have to be a technical one, because I know you mentioned in the beginning that you also have plans for non-technical sessions. So I also do presentations on technical transformations, on leadership. So if you're planning such sessions, I'm happy to join. And even if it's a technical session as well, I'm happy to join. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate all the questions and all the engagement from everyone. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, I see we have lots of people clapping here in the comment section. That's beautiful. Okay, so moving on to our next agenda. So I'm gonna quickly